Hi and welcome. So today I want to talk about triggers and emotional eating and how you can use them to start resolving your emotional eating. So if you're new here, welcome. My name is Michelle. I'm a certified holistic nutritionist and emotional eating guide. And so this is such an important topic, triggers. It's something that when I'm working with clients, we're keeping track of our triggers. And so triggers are events, things, people, situations that trigger us into emotionally eating. And so at the time that we're emotionally eating, we might not even realize that we have been triggered. And so this is really foundational work that I work with clients on, because finding the trigger or that triggering point is going to be really helpful to resolving your emotional eating. And so if I sort of rewind, when I was going through my own emotional eating journey, and this is the same for a lot of clients, I didn't even know I was triggered. I just thought I felt, so out of control of my body, of food, that I was constantly hungry, constantly eating, and I was looking for the right diet and the right way to eat in order to control my emotional eating. And, food and nourishment does play a part in our emotional eating and our body acceptance, but there's so much more that goes deeper, and triggers help us find that deeper aspect of our emotional eating. And so triggers are important to keep track of when we're moving through this emotional eating journey. And so when I work with clients, what we do is we start looking for areas that might trigger us, or times of the day or events that make us go to this emotional eating where we feel out of control around food. And so what you can do for yourself is to look back. Is it the same time of day that you emotionally eat, or you feel you emotionally eat? Is it, sometimes it's late in the evening. It could be in the afternoon. It could be late at night. It can be just, you've had a really bad, stressful day at work. Start looking at when you're triggered with your emotional eating. And so this is going to give us a doorway into how to resolve your emotional eating. So what I look at with triggers with clients are a few different things. And it's important that, I want to say that not all emotional eating is going to be created just by our emotions. At the very core, yes, but there are things we can do around it to make sure it's not just uncomfortable emotions popping out that are traumas from our childhood, that it's something, if it's something under our control, that we're doing our best to sort of circumvent it. And the reason I say that is because in the emotional eating evolution program, we work through triggers in a different way. So when someone starts the program, we don't just dive into all of the somatic work and trauma work in the body around their emotional eating. And the reason is because a lot of the times when clients come to me, so the first phase of the program is true nourishment and strategic digestion. They need to optimize the way they're nourishing themselves and really look at their digestion, because they tend to be in a diet space and not eating enough throughout the day. And so there are a few key reasons we want to look at those kind of triggers. So if you're not eating enough throughout the day, that's going to trigger binging. If you're not digesting your food well, that's going to trigger, your moods are going to be off, because your gut and your digestion is connected to your brain and your mood. So we want to look at how well you're digesting. And so that's going to give us an idea of some of the triggers that are coming up for you. And depending on the time of day, we sort of go through that layer. How much are you eating? Are you nourishing your body? Are you digesting well? Are you really deeply satisfying your body and nourishing it? And so that's sort of one area of triggers we look at. The second area is going to be under the second phase of the program, which is body acceptance. But here we're really looking at the triggers around, are you, do you have an amazing nighttime ritual so that you're getting deep sleep, so that you're not triggered into emotional eating the next day because your, hunger hormones and your mood is off. And that's going to be really important, because that can trigger emotional eating as well. And so we start working with that. We also look at, what time of the month is it? Our energy changes. We might need to eat differently during different times of the month and nourish our bodies differently. And if we're in this restrictive diet mentality, we may not be eating according to where we're at during the month. This is especially true for women with a cycle. And so we want to look at what's going on, during the month. And even if it isn't the month, if you don't have a menstrual cycle, it could be what happened the night before. How did you eat the night before? How did you sleep the night before? What was going on in your body sort of leading up to this emotional eating? And so if you're having, no sleep and you're sort of eating minimally, those are going to be triggers that we need to look at as well. But here it's going to be, how well are we sort of giving our body the rituals it needs and the movement so that our hunger is sort of not out of control and we are helping our moods in this more physical way. So those are triggers we would look around the body. And so then when we sort of get into those areas, if the emotional eating, the deeper, what I would call the deeper emotional eating is popping up, that means there's some kind of unresolved emotion and trauma that is using food to soothe. So whenever we emotionally eat, truly, the way I think of it is we use food to soothe ourselves. And it can happen when we're not eating enough, and it can happen when we are not sleeping enough. We are triggered into an uncomfortable emotion or mood. But when we resolve it at those levels, then we really are looking at the emotional triggers in the body. So those are the unresolved issues in our body, and they tend to go back to childhood. So those unresolved traumas, or when we were not, regulated as children, we weren't given those emotional needs. And so here is where we dive deeper. And this is where, when I've sort of worked through phase 1 and 2, we can see this is true emotional eating, and we can dive into what is triggering this. From here, we use the triggers as a starting point to now dive into the body and to start processing through that emotional event. And so this happens with the guided meditations or the private work I do with clients. And here we get into the emotion, we process, we resolve, we integrate it, and we truly meet the needs so that we can move forward in a really powerful way. Here we can start changing that emotional eating pattern, that true emotional eating pattern. So as you can see from what I'm describing, triggers can be in one of these 3 categories. So how we're nourishing ourselves, how, our body acceptance, and then emotionally. So we are looking at ourselves sort of mentally, emotionally, physically, and trying to figure out what are the different triggers triggering us into this emotional, what we would say emotional eating, where we feel out of control around food and it's impacting our body. And so triggers are this doorway, this gateway into really seeing what's going on for us. And so this is not just simply, I have a trigger, I'm an emotional eater. There are other factors, and I see this time and time again with clients, that they have different areas of their life that we need to sort of, optimize so that they are optimizing their mood and that they're not thinking they are emotionally eating when there's not a true sort of trauma underneath. And so this is important to really acknowledge. So triggers are your friend. Triggers are going to guide you to where you need to sort of up level, the way you're nourishing yourself, or the way you are, working with your body or your emotions, and help you move through your emotional eating and help you to resolve it. And so this is what we do inside of the Emotional Eating Evolution program. I work through clients through these 3 phases. There's an additional phase as well, but I'm just going to share with you the first 3 phases. The 4th phase is more lifestyle, and we add in additional strategies to really help with this and to sort of go deeper into these first 3 phases. And so this is the way we move forward and resolve our emotional eating. It is not just we work on the emotions. It's not just we work on the food. It's not just we work on, sort of the rituals around our body. We work with everything holistically. So if what I'm saying resonates with you and you are ready to move through your emotional eating, you want to resolve it, you want guidance and support to help you with these different triggers, then I'd love to invite you to book in an emotional eating assessment call. I'll leave the link below. You can also find out more information about the Emotional Eating Evolution program. So this program is a holistic program to help you resolve your emotional eating so that you have sustainable results. There is no sort of going back. You'll have all the tools to really move through your emotional eating. So once again, if this is resonating with you, I'd love to invite you to book in that call. And of course, if you have any questions about what I've shared with you today, please leave them below, and please be sure to like and subscribe if you haven't. And I look forward to sharing more with you, and I hope you have a great day.